All right, joining me here on the Full Court Press is Utah State football offensive coordinator. It's Anthony Tucker here. Coach, thanks for your time. Grateful to have you.
Oh man, glad to be here with you guys. How you doing?
We're great. Hey, so you had a ton of success at UCF. I mean, incredible success, including in the 2020 season of your running game. What brought you to Utah State? What was the most attractive part of coming to Logan?
Well, first of all, I have previous relationship working with Coach Anderson, so we're very, very closely aligned with our approach, and I believe in him, and we've had success together. So it was very very attractive to be able to reunite with him and kind of join him on this on this new challenge. And the other part of it is I grew up on the West Coast, so I was very familiar with Utah State. I played in an earlier iteration of this conference, played in the WAC conference.
Yeah.
With Fresno State, and I'd seen the success and rise of Utah State football. Also had a chance to face them when Coach Anderson and I were together at Arkansas State, and they're a really, really good team, and so really attractive to get back to the West Coast, work with Coach Anderson, and come in here and kind of reignite where this program has been before. Just in recent years, 2 or 3 years ago, they're 11 win team, and really just the success that they've had over really the last 8 or 9 years. So, just really excited to get back and work with Coach Anderson.
Are you adjusting to the weather all right? I mean, Central Florida doesn't see like high gust winds and a lot of snow for 3 days straight. Are you doing all right?
You know what? I'm a Four Seasons guy, so I like when the weather gets a little cool and you can put on a jacket and 90 degrees and humidity every day. It can get a little bit tough to deal with. So I love Florida, but I have no issue with Four Seasons here, man, and I have no issues with these winds, and we got a little snow today, so not an issue at all.
Well, hopefully the weather will be good to go for Saturday's spring scrimmage. Coach, how is spring ball going for you guys so far offensively? What have you liked so far, and what do you think you could improve upon getting ready for this Saturday?
I feel like we've made a ton of progress with, obviously there's things that there's a ton of teaching and everything that goes into it. From the standpoint of, installing a new offense and things like that. But first and foremost, we have a bunch of great guys on this team. We've had zero pushback. They show up and it's a team that is great in the meeting rooms. They're great in the weight room. They're great out on the football field. They work hard. I think just really, I feel like we've accomplished what we're trying to accomplish, and just really building the foundation of what Coach Anderson is trying to instill in this program. We've had a ton of effort, and guys are working really hard and very willing. So it makes it really enjoyable to show up, because you never know how transition is going to go, right?
Sure.
So it makes it really enjoyable when you have a bunch of guys that are really, really kind of buying into the investment part of what we're trying to build. And I feel like we have over the course of 12 practices have really kind of laid the foundation of who we are and where we're trying to go and what we want to be. So, and as far as improvements, I mean, it doesn't matter if we're in year 3, if you're in month 3, and as coaches, there's always room for improvement. So I wouldn't say that there's one specific thing that we need to improve on. I think we just need to continue to build the foundation and then kind of start laying the bricks, so to speak, on where this program's going to go and who we're going to be offensively and who we're going to be as a team. Any
separation at quarterback so far?
Yeah, I mean it's a competition, man, and it'll be a competition here for the next 3 or 4 months, and whoever the leader is will be out there, week 1 when we line up.
The amount of experience on this team is abnormal, to say the least, but how has that helped this new coaching staff as you guys have tried to implement new concepts to the offense?
I think there's varying degrees of experience, right? Especially if you you factor in this past calendar year with, really no off season, really no summer, a very abbreviated season. So I think if you're talking about years served, it's one thing. If you're talking about experience, it's something else. So there's been a little bit of catching up to do as far as just, and I think it's really across college football. When you're an athlete and you have a huge kind of almost a pause in your development, in your training and things like that, there's some ground you need to make up, and that's not just here, but really across college football. So we're getting there, but we're gonna, once we get finished with spring ball, we'll kind of take a deep breath, and then once those guys are back and we're ready to get in the summer program, we're gonna have a great summer and get ready for fall camp.
When you look at your quarterbacks or you're looking at a certain spot on the offensive side of the ball, how much stock do you take into spring ball going into fall camp?
Well, I think when you get through spring ball, I think you kind of have an idea who your team is, what your needs are, where you're deficient, where you're strong. I think you kind of have an idea of what your personnel is and the personality of your personnel. But I don't think it's a finished product by any means. Competition is every day, and consistency is really important. So I think there's a lot you can take. I think the spring ball just really is a foundational thing, and just really kind of having a big picture view of who your team is, and what you need to address a little bit more, and what you need to continue to polish, and those types of things. But there's a ton of work that needs to be done post-spring with your off-season program, going into the summer, and then how you get through fall camp. So hopefully you're kind of you're kind of peaking at the right time, with how you build that first half a year going into the first game.
Speaking and going back to the concept part, you guys want to run an up-tempo offense, and I look back to Matt Wells and Coach Yost and how quick that offense was going. How different or similar are the concepts to what Aggie fans may have seen in those last years with Wells and Yost compared to what you guys are going to be doing?
Well, the goal is, really not to compare yourself to anyone else, but, to kind of be your own entity there. Our goal is to go faster than anybody else. Our goal is to put pressure on the defense. But I wouldn't compare us to those previous systems. They've, obviously those are two great coaches that have had a ton of success. But we're going to be our own version of who we are. And so, if we can, those guys, like I said, those guys have both those coaches have had great success. So if you're comparing success, if we can walk in that light and have the success, if not greater, which is, obviously trying to push the envelope to be the greatest version of ourselves. So those are two great coaches, but I wouldn't compare us to them. We're in the infancy of what we're doing here. So we're going to build the foundation, and we're going to do what we do.
Do you guys feel like you have the personnel and the talent to execute that kind of an offensive system at that kind of a pace?
I do think, and you're never done building, and you're never done developing. But I think the potential is there. I think we do have some skill here, and we do have some guys up front that I think have a ton of potential. We have guys in the quarterback room that I feel can lead the offense. We have guys in the backfield. There's again, and to me, there's very going back to the experience. I think it's just a matter of continuing to develop those guys, but they've been a lot better than I could have thought they would be, just as far as their willingness and what we've been able to accomplish this spring so far.
Utah State football offensive coordinator Anthony Tucker here on the Full Court Press with us. What individuals, and I know you are an offensive team concept guy, but what individuals have stood out to you so far?
I think Devin Tompkins has had as good a spring as anyone on offense. He is a really good football player that is just kind of, in my opinion, scratching the surface of what he's capable of doing. So I would say, just if there's one guy that I'd like to, in my mind that sticks out is him. I mean, he has made plays all over the field. He's has good a work ethic as anyone that I've ever been around. And the good news for Utah State Aggies fans is you get to see him for 2 more seasons. And then to me, the sky's the limit with him, especially with his work ethic and his approach and how he's in the meeting room, how he lives, and he's got some leadership qualities. And so I've been very, very impressed with him to this point.
What are your thoughts so far on the quarterbacks, just in regard to their performance and what you've seen out of them?
I've been happy. I've been happy with the quarterbacks. It's never easy as a quarterback, I'd say, especially with having to learn different systems and things like that. And there's guys in that room, in that quarterback room, who have been a part of a couple of different systems and numerous coordinators and things like that. And then there's also, there's not a ton of experience, and again, you factor in last year, and that delays the development a little bit. But from day one to now, been very pleased with the progress, and obviously there's a ton of more improvement. They can kind of continue to build that momentum here in the next 3-4 months.
What's 2 of the most maybe key things that you're seeing or you want to see out of your quarterback to project the starter coming up here in the fall?
I'd say consistency. If there's one thing, consistency is huge. We ask our quarterbacks are responsible for a lot. They have to be able to process. They have to be able to process, what we're asking them to do, and then they also have to be able to communicate. And then when the ball's snapped, they have to be very, 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 very keen and very, very detailed with decision making. Right. So you can communicate, and your decision making is there. You're processing. And you're not doing anything to hurt the team. But I'd say just being consistent along those lines will allow us to be successful.
Coach, you made a lot of stops throughout your career. Lakewood, it started kind of in California for high school, then Colorado, Idaho State, Arkansas State, Maryland, UCF, and now Utah State. Who is your mentor that you've looked to throughout your coaching career?
Oh man, I would never be able to point to one guy. There's been so many that have been instrumental for me. Dating all the way back to Lakewood with coach that I worked for there. My first college job was with Dan Hawkins, and was an assistant receiver coach there for with a guy who's really been a mentor to me. His name was Robert Prince. He's now in the NFL. Coach Anderson has been, really instrumental. Learned a lot from him, working for him, and then just as our relationship continued when we weren't together. I could go down a long list of really great coaches that I've been around and had opportunity. I had opportunity to be around Eric Bieniemy when he was at Colorado for 8 months. For me to point out one guy would probably the service, all the people that have played a big part in in kind of my path and my development.
Coach, as impressive as your path has been as a coach up to Utah State, held a bachelor's degree at Fresno State. You were also Western Athletic Conference Scholar Athlete and a 3-time member of the Dean's List. And you were once a member of the President's List, having a 4.0 GPA. How in the world do you do that?
You know what? It's the same thing that I when I talk to the players is I got to a point early in college where I really developed a pride in every way that I present myself. And so what I'll tell our guys is, you should take pride in everything that you put your name on, so to speak. So, if I got a research paper back and it had a C on it, well, then I put my name on that. That's who I am. So I wanted to make sure that, I got an A in football. I got an A in constitutional law. I wanted to make sure that if there's something that I'm putting effort in, that, the result is reflected in actually who I am. And so, it to me, it really wasn't that hard. It's just effort, man. It's going there, you lift weights, when it's out there, and you're running, you're making sure that you're running hard when you're in class. I wanted to get something out of it. I had aspirations of. I understood that there is a life after football, so I kind of took all those things serious because I didn't want to have days that I didn't want to have any regret at the end of the day. I didn't want a door to be closed because I didn't take care of certain things on the front end. So, and it really came from, a professor of mine that he really took interest in me and kind of lit a fire under me and made me see things from a different perspective. So, I don't know, man, whatever I put my name on, man, I want it to be reflecting on who I wanted, who I am.
If it wasn't football, with that kind of a resume academically, what were you going to do?
My plan was to go to law school.
Okay.
I actually, my plan was to go to law school. I had a goal of, I wanted to go to NYU. I actually studied for the LSAT and I was still kind of in the midst of chasing my dreams as a professional football player. And along with that, I was studying for the LSAT and planning on taking that, that exam and going to law school. And then just as I grew and got older, I just kind of, found interest in different things and went a different direction. But that was my goal.
Well, I'm glad I ended up here at Utah State. It's great to have you, Coach. Thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you and your offense this Saturday afternoon at the spring scrimmage at the Maverick.
I appreciate you guys.